In the final days of his administration, Governor Murphy issued a wave of pardons and commutations, actions that have been drawing sharp criticism from prosecutors and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Among them, a decision that made a Monmouth County woman convicted of killing her two young children in 1996 immediately eligible for parole, along with several other pardons involving people who are politically connected. State Senator Vin Gopal says those cases cross a line and is now calling for limits on the governor's clemency powers. Senator Gopal joins us now. Senator, welcome. Good to see you. You and your running mates used some pretty strong language about this, that you were outraged, disgusted. What about those decisions specifically crossed the line for you?
Good to see you too, Brianna. I think it goes across the board. The governor is on his way out, does it at the last moment, so we don't even have an opportunity. You guys, the press, don't even have an opportunity to ask questions or understand how they got there. Specifically in this case where I live in the city of Long Branch, where this mom was charged with burning her two kids alive. They didn't even give a heads up to the father. I talked to the father. They didn't even tell him, or they didn't even hear his side of the story. They didn't tell anyone. And I think those are some of the challenges. We've also seen news reports that people have been paid to give pardons, to attain pardons. And I want folks to know this is not a partisan issue. I'm equally critical if it's Murphy or what Donald Trump has done at the national level, where Wall Street Journal has reported up to $3 to $4 million to pay to get a pardon, or even when Joe Biden pardoned his own son after telling everyone he's not going to. I believe this is a representative democracy, not a monarchy, and we need to look at how pardons are being used.
So what kind of limits do you want to see on that clemency power? Because, I mean, as you mentioned, it's been used. The Governor Murphy, that is, did put some new procedures in place around it that hadn't been there, but it was pretty much understood that it was those who knew someone who would have the upper hand for all those years. What do you want to see change?
It seems like that has accelerated. And I've had groups like the ACLU reach out to me and say, no, this is a legitimate pardon. This is a legitimate pardon. The problem is when you have anything that's not that's been done financially, then it makes the whole system not legitimate. So one thing is immediately, I think, either some kind of disclosure, either you register, similar if a lobbyist comes and meets with me or meets with the front office. If you're getting paid money to lobby the governor's office or the governor, him or herself, to get a pardon for somebody, I think that should be, the public has a right to know that. I'm actually in favor of an outright ban, but if we can't get that, then I think you need to register somehow. Two, I think you shouldn't be able to do pardons on your way out of office. I feel like if a governor is gonna do that pardon process, there needs to be a legitimate process. There needs to be outreach to the victim's family members. There needs to be an allowance for them to provide feedback and actually have that public, transparent back and forth for the 60, 90 days, whatever time period. And then at the end of that, if the governor still feels that this is pardoned, then God bless. It is what it is. That's his or her constitutional right. But to skip all those steps, I think it just really, really bad in the face of transparency.
Well, and you said it is enshrined in the state constitution. So how are you looking to go about this? A constitutional amendment? Is there an appetite in the legislature for that?
I think everything is on the table right now. I've spoken to Judiciary Chairman Senator Brian Stack, who's very open to all this and was equally outraged, as well as some of my colleagues across the aisle, like Senator Doug Steinhardt, who's also exploring legislation. So I think we recognize that this is a issue that is really, what happened down in the South Jersey case. I think that the jury had not even reached a conclusion, or the judge hadn't even ruled and the governor pardoned. Basically, why have a jury? Why go through that process? Why go through that entire? We've had assistant prosecutors who work on a case for 7, 8 years, and it all gets undone just like that. I do just think that we need some markers here in the sand to help make this a cleaner process.
Yeah, in that case, Jacob Harris, the jury was convening that morning, rendering a verdict on what was a fatal hit and run, but that verdict was ultimately moot. Because the pardon sort of coincided with it. I mean, I guess that lends to what you're saying about the public trust and the ability for the public to have some insight into how these choices, these decisions are being made.
Yeah, and the fact that he doesn't, and then he's gone. Nobody can ask him any questions. How did you reach that conclusion? What did this mother do for 30 years that you feel that after burning her kids, which the court case at the time was almost overwhelmingly for the death penalty, but it was not unanimous, so she didn't get the death penalty. That every investigator and everyone said that she was guilty. I don't understand. So it's the timing, it's all of it. And then when I was talking to the father of those kids, for him to find out in a news article and not even find out from the administration, and this is somebody in our community that a lot of people know, it really just really put knots in my stomach.
And so I guess, how do you balance what the ACLU brought up, right? That sort of need to correct wrongful or excessive sentences with this need for accountability, for transparency. Is there a happy medium there?
Like I've talked to the ACLU, and they feel strongly that politicians should do this. I just respectfully disagree with them. I'm okay with a third party doing this. I'm okay with making sure that a governor can't do this at the end of their term. Maybe they only are able to do it up until the third year. So if they do that, something like this, that there has to be some transparency in the process. That there should be some kind of time period where they go back and forth with the public, allow folks to write letters and actually do this the right way. I just think we can get to a place where we're not touching these constitutional rights, but at the same time do this. So my question is, what about for the person that can't afford a high-powered lobbyist or consultant that's close to the governor to get them off on a pardon? Who's representing those people? And the ACLU does feel strongly about this case in Long Branch, but I have an entire city, an entire constituent that does not feel that way, that were actually here in the 90s. I talked to dozens of investigators, officers, reporters, neighbors during that period of the 1990s. Not one has said they've heard from any organization, including the governor's office or ACLU. I read every article from the 90s in the Asbury Park Press on that in depth, and I just questioned what was done on the other side. They questioned some of the changes in fire science. So if the argument was that there needed to be a new trial, that's one thing, but that's not what was happening here. They're arguing ultimately to allow her for parole, and did it in just a very, very sloppy way.
State Senator Vin Gopal, thank you as always for talking with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.